theories as to why Fred doesn't want or never wanted this book written. I'm convinced that Fred knows more than he's said. And if you look at his initial statements to the police, his statements at UMass police, you can see that he's outright lied to the people that are trying to find his daughter. He's changed his story, especially about the events and the days leading up to Maura's disappearance. And if any reporter, not just me, if any reporter pushes him on that and asks, tell me specifically what was happening in those days leading up to her disappearance. Tell me what you were doing at the university that weekend in specifics. He will say nothing that happened before matters.
My dad, although he's portrayed in different media outlets as being this aggressive, hard-nosed guy that pushed us, it wasn't that. We didn't want to let him down. We didn't want to disappoint him.
Who were some of those people?
All over any kind of blogs, Reddit blogs, James Renner. It just complete mischaracterization of my dad. So anyone that knows my dad knows that it's just not worth their time even paying attention to.
What were Maura's troubles at UMass?
Go back a few months before Maura disappeared. This is November 2003. She got caught using stolen credit card numbers to order food. We're talking about stealing pizza, for goodness sakes, but the UMass police did the sting operation where they followed the pizza guy into the university, and then Maura is the one that comes down and signs for it. And she goes in front of a judge, and the judge says, hey, if you can stay out of trouble for 3 months, we'll take this off your record. Maura then drove her father's car at about 3:30 in the morning, and that's when she got in an accident right next to the university. She was going to get cited for that accident. At the very least, failure to control or reckless op. That might have been enough for the judge to say, you couldn't stay out of trouble, so now you've got this on your permanent record.
So I was not out of control, mad, or anything like that. And as soon as I realized that I could get it fixed, my big problem was, how am I getting back to Connecticut? Because I've got this responsibility. I must discharge my responsibility. How am I going to do that? And now here's the answer. Here's how you're going to do it, Fred, with our free loaner. We'll fix your car, take this loaner, and then I'm covered with insurance. The pressure was off. It was off. There was no enragement, It was just, at that point, I was just mild irritation. The last thing I said to Maura, don't worry, Maura, it's going to be taken care of. There's no lasting damage here, as I tried to comfort her. That's the worst thing. I thought to myself, this kid has never done anything that caused me any problem in her entire life. I said, that's all a kid ever does. I'm way ahead of the game. That was my thinking, and that's what I said to anyone that wanted to know, and that's the story on that. So it's important for me to get that out, because that's a misconception. Fred really reamed her out. He didn't, I wasn't mad at her. She was a kid. She was doing stuff like that all the time, but she never did anything. Never. But anyway, it's important that you know that.
And I do have a point. I'm not just rambling. With your theory, how far along was she in her pregnancy, do you think?
I think she probably just found out. I mean, they were only, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks into the spring semester. So, I think probably very early on.
It's really tough for me to think that she just found out she was pregnant, looked up these directions, looked up the effect of drinking, but yet there's no search on battered women underground railroads. There's no search on how to avoid the world and maintain custody of a child when you don't want your family and boyfriend to know about it. There's nothing that suggests that, and there's nothing suggesting that, unless there's some like something we don't know about, but there's nothing suggesting that when all of her actions beforehand are pretty well documented and pretty straightforward.
There's a lot of speculation that Maura might have been pregnant when she left.
The police think she was pregnant. They had searched her computer and found all these searches relating to the effects of drinking on a baby.
But it was probably because we were in maternity class.
Interesting.
We had a maternity assignment. So what we had done, as our clinical instructor had advised us to do, was to look up clinical terms and then email them to each other.
And that's why she was Googling those terms and sharing them
Right, we were all Googling maternity terms. And right before she had left, she had done her homework assignment. It was the night before that she had sent it.
Maura emailed her homework at 3:32 a.m. on February 9th, the very morning she disappeared. If Maura's plan was to run away, the contents in her car could give us some clues. The thing that stands out to me is there's a pack of birth control in the car.
It's interesting.
4 pills missing. Finding birth control in her car isn't consistent with Renner's theory that she was pregnant.
The first thing I thought was pretty interesting was the interview with Erin, who was the nursing student that Maura had borrowed scrubs from the week before and returned the day that she left, the day that she disappeared. And a couple of things that she said were interesting. First of all, Erin said she emailed her homework on February 9th at 3:32 a.m. So, this is just my opinion, but it almost rules out entirely the possibility both that she was going to commit suicide and that she was running away from her life.
Yeah.
There's just no reason that the last thing that you do before taking off forever is your homework.
No one has heard from her. She would do that to us.
When Maura disappeared, how did it affect your mom?
Oh, it crushed her. Because my mother was sick on top of it. She'd been diagnosed with cancer. And I know it really bothered her not to be able to take a more active role being up in New Hampshire searching. And I saw that toll it took on her.
For the next 5 years, Maura's mother, Lori, was increasingly sick. Her illness, combined with Maura's absence, would eventually consume her.
Mom passed away on Maura's birthday. So May 4th is one of the most difficult days of the year for me. It's kind of weird because they're forever linked now. It was almost as if she was waiting for that. So I'm still not over it, I never will be. You know?
Is this something that you could just do kind of on a whim, or do you really have to plan this? To pull off a successful disappearance where you are going to obtain another identity, whether legally or illegally, takes years. The reason why most people who do try to disappear get caught isn't because something happens like their image is captured on closed-circuit TV. It's almost always because they cannot cut ties with their old lives. Maura's mother was really sick with cancer when Maura disappeared, and she died on Maura's birthday 5 years after Maura went missing. You know, how hard would it have been for this 21-year-old girl, in your eyes, not to come back for her mother's funeral or even talk to her sick mother? In my research, something like cancer, a major loss, a major trauma to the family, you would think would supersede any kind of logistics or grudges that you may have. So especially at such a young age, that seems really impossible to not come back home for mom. So from everything you've told me, in my opinion, I would have to say it's very unlikely that she staged her own disappearance.
You know, everybody wants to get in the act and have something to say, and the Renner influence on the case has hurt. You know, it's been it's hurt by means of being a distraction, and it keeps me and everybody else from concentrating on what needs to be done. I don't want to have to defend myself. I was torn whether I just totally ignore them. But then I'll be subjected to the idea, well, if Fred didn't do this, Fred would have said that he didn't do it. So you're guilty if you don't defend yourself, you know? So I chose to take it on point for point. I wrote one letter, and that was the 5 most important things. So I said, well, let's get them all. Let's touch on everything he says. I want to rebut. And just debunk, just counter it with the truth. And so out came the second letter. So that's the story behind the letters and the way I handled Renna. I was really torn, but I don't like to get hit and not swing back, you know? Turn the other cheek. I always, even as a little kid, turn the other cheek, yeah? But then I'll get walloped on the other cheek, you know? So that's what I was doing.